maybe even go back, why even have cows? Why even have the 20 acres? It probably goes back to a few years into the fishing of, when the cousin had said, maybe you should sell this salmon. Hey guys, Abraham here with Salmon Homestead. Hope you've been enjoying the fishing content videos that we've been putting out. It's been fun showing you some of the activity that takes place on the boat and what it takes to get that fish from Alaska back to here. If you're new to the channel, I commercial fish up in Bristol Bay, Alaska, the biggest salmon run in the world. If you're new to the channel, we try to release 2 videos a week. One video will be video of when I was up in Alaska, because as many of you already know, you can't really release videos up in Alaska out on the water. You'd have to have a really good whatever to make that happen. So we bring them back here and then we put them together. The other video is what happens with our salmon homestead here in Wisconsin. So at the moment, we are at our suburban lot and we are working on a project. Let me show you what I'm working on today, of which is a shade mobile. Over at the acres, we have our laying chickens, and another project that we are working on is getting fencing put up on our acres. And as many of you know, these acres, it was just cornfield and maybe it was a bean field at some point, and it has no trees. So with wanting to put some cattle on in the near future, we are looking at, well, how can we make our cattle maybe the happiest cattle they can be? And part of that would be providing them with some shade. And so we're working on here is a mobile shade structure in which, as we move the cattle from paddock to paddock, not only would they get good grass and clover and alfalfa as they're eating away, they also have a place to take some shade if that sun is something that's really going down on their, on their bodies, and they just want some shade. Sometimes you want some shade, you go maybe under a tree or you go in your house to get a relaxation from the sun. That would give the cows or maybe eventually the sheep that same opportunity. So in pricing out the metal to hold our structure, we really realized that pricing has gone up in quite a few things. In what you buy, it was going to be almost $1,000 to expand up where we have wood coming up, and then metal was supposed to come out here to hold this wood structure, and to extend this another 10 feet. That whole part would have been about $1,000, and so it was like, not going to do that. So we expanded everything up with wood using what we had, and yes, I've got bolts here that are in bags, so we did not have these, so I had to go purchase those. But yes, we are recycling lumber to build this shade mobile, because the awesomest way would have had more metal, but metal is very expensive right now. So the wood is recycled from a house that we took down a number of years back. We kept most of the wood, and this wood that we're using here is would be 2 3/4 by, what would it be, 7 3/4, and that was the joist that made up that house. And so that's going to make up our main structure, and then eventually we're going to use 2x4s, which would be 1 3/4 by 3 3/4. They are going to be running across the top, so then we can attach a shade cloth up there. So maybe you're asking the question, why is it important that we make our cows happy? Why do we make a shade mobile? Maybe even go back, why even have cows? Why even have the 20 acres? it probably goes back to a few years into the fishing of, when the cousin had said, maybe you should sell this salmon. And at that same time, we were getting salmon. We were trying to trace where that salmon was coming from. And what we really found out, it was hard to really follow the trail of where our salmon was coming from. Because, at the moment, you maybe would take things for granted. We always would get chickens from the family farm. We would get our beef from the family farm. You knew where those maybe bigger meat items were coming from, but where was maybe the salmon coming from? And therefore we thought, if we can bring that back to Wisconsin and share that salmon, we can tell them exactly where it comes from. It comes from the water, to our boat, to our processor, to you who are buying that product. And so another part of that journey was, maybe we can raise some cattle on our own to share with others. To, if we need some meat, we maybe run out of meat, maybe we don't have enough meat from the family farm back in Minnesota, maybe we now have some meat that we can have on our own. So that's the big reason of starting this, of having 15 of our 20 acres pastured at the moment, is to allow a spot where some cows, maybe some sheep, maybe even a horse, we can have those on there. They can enjoy some great grass and eventually some hay. And then if it works and some of you would want to buy some meat off of these cattle, or we just need to subsidize our own meat because we're eating more hamburger and things like that, we have that available, and we know how that animal was raised. That means that I know where that animal was on pasture, I know what food was consumed, and I probably even know first name what butcher that animal went to. So when it's on my plate, or maybe eventually on your plate, I can tell you exactly the route that came from birth all the way to your plate. Isn't that a pretty cool thought, to know exactly where, like the salmon, where the salmon came from all the way to you, where the beef came all the way to you. And not too often can you go into a store and really trace that line really clearly by looking at the label of where that animal came from and what nutrients it took in. So I know I now just did a little rant on the order of food and how it is, but I hope you see it's a little passion that I have on really learning now of where my food is coming from. And I want to share it with you. When I know it and I hear something or know how it's going down with, maybe chickens or cows, or especially the salmon, I'd like to share that with you. And of course, you make up, whatever decision you want to make up with you and your family. And we'll let that be. But I hope you enjoy seeing this other project I got going on with the Shade Mobile. And real soon here, we're going to have it sides popped up and some purlins going across the top. Let's get back to that.
Walk with me. Let's leave the past behind. Walk with me. There's something else we need to find. Say you'll go, don't make me wait. There's no need to hesitate. Let's make footprints in sand. Let's make miracles. Come hold my hand. Let's find something new, me and you.
Well, as you can see, walls have been lifted and All the bracing is in on the corners, going up and angled and going across. And we already have 3 of the purlins going across. Still have, I believe, 5 more to make. Remember, the purpose of the purlins is to make the shade mobile wider than the frame, and then it's going to hold the shade cloth eventually. Since we're going into winter here, it wouldn't pay to put the shade cloth on there, then it would just hold snow on top. So come spring, we'll put the shade cloth on top. It's gonna be an 80% shade cloth that will go across the purlins, and then I'll just take boards across the side and just screw it down on each of the ends of the purlins, and that will hold it in place. So we're almost there. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Good job, Brandon.
It's ripping.
Good thing you had your pants on there.
Huh?
Good thing you had your pants on.
Yeah.